Names and statues across the country associated with racist behavior in our nation's history are being yanked down by protesters, voted out, or removed by local governments.
Which brings up the question, what's the standard for taking down a statue? Denver 7's Russell Haythorne is live with a 360 report tonight. Russell, historians at least seem to agree there's a bit of a slippery slope here.
Yeah, you guys, most are in agreement about the removal of Confederate statues, but what about statues like this one, this globe in Civic Center Park, which features a plaque honoring Christopher Columbus at its base? That's where experts say they should be considered on a case-by-case basis, and we're going 360. In cities across the country, including Denver, Americans are toppling, smashing, and defacing statues, a movement gaining momentum as states grapple with their checkered past.
We can't cancel out history and forget it.
That the statue needs to go.
Removing the statues is not removing history. We have books, we have museums, we have movies.
So we're going 360 on whether statues with historic figures should be removed. Talking to those who say take them down, the mayor establishing a removal commission, a historian who sees a clear path forward, those who say leave them alone, and we start with this Denver City Councilman who says the plaque honoring Christopher Columbus at the base of this Civic Center statue must go.
It's no longer okay for us to have statues that revel in colonialism.
The debate over this particular statue dates back to at least 1992, when the American Indian movement called for removal of the plaque as the only option acceptable to us. 28 years later, it's still here.
Let's convene a stakeholder group to figure out what should go in its place.
The mayor has directed a commission to start looking at various parks, facilities, and monuments throughout the city.
On those pieces that we believe may be offensive, to determine what our steps ought to be, rather renaming them, removing them altogether.
History buff Dr. Shelby Balick of MSU Denver is blunt when it comes to Confederate statues.
Statues are not meant to tell history. Statues are meant to glorify. You're not going to find too many countries around the world that maintain statues and memorials to people who committed treason in defense of slavery.
While Balick believes there's no debate about Confederate monuments, she says the statues honoring presidents like Washington and Jefferson are different and need context.
And we need to understand that history is complicated and messy. There are people who were deeply flawed and yet still contributed to the history of the nation.
As you might imagine, public opinion is mixed.
All these statues are part of history. We can't change history, so I think it's better to know the history and discuss it than to bury it.
It's definitely something that causes controversy because he did steal land essentially or take over land.
I think it's important that we bring it out. We understand the atrocities that did happen in the past.
Maybe it needs to be in a museum that's protected.
And that's exactly what Balick suggests. Where does that go? Do you bury it or
No.
do you put it in a museum?
I think you put it in a museum, but in a museum you can add context. And frankly, I think that the graffiti on the statues is also part of the history.
Our Russell Haythorne with a 360 look tonight. So should these monuments be torn down, altered, given context, or simply left alone? We know there are so many opinions on this topic, and we want to hear yours. Weigh in on Facebook or Twitter or email us 360@thedenverchannel.com.